Hello, all you hardcores out there. How you doing? It's Russ here. Welcome to part three. Just waiting for Julian to join us. Should be here in a second. Julian's always on time. Is he? We'll see. A second, he'll be here. We'll start with that, Julian, shall we? Well, I'm hoping to talk to him about the heavyweight division of the 70s and something a bit different. Oh, he's not called on. Oh, he's here. He's here. He's here. He's here. Are you doing all right?
I was here all along, but for some reason I couldn't log on, mate.
I'm going to ask you, who's your favourite heavyweight from the 70s, and who would you put in against Tyson Fury now and Joshua, and they'd really give him a good fight?
Favorite heavyweight are those 70s and 80s in particular. That's my
Larry
trivia.
Holmes, Larry Holmes, I know.
Larry Holmes was my favorite heavyweight, but
Peanut Head.
yeah, I loved Jerry Cooney. I really liked Greg Page. He was a massive underachiever. Tim Witherspoon, I thought again was another underachiever. Mikey Dukes. I love that era. 70s. I was obviously when I started getting into boxing, I was born in 1971, so I remember watching Ali and Spinks, but I was like 7 or 8. I was just starting to get into boxing, and Ali was the back end of his career. But Larry Holmes, I can't do it now, but I used to be able to recite all his fights from his pro debut all the way through all his title defenses and dates and everything. You know, I think it was June the 9th, 1978 when he fought Kenny Norton. I knew it backwards, but I don't have that memory anymore and I don't keep up to it. But Holmes was a phenomenal fighter. And I can't think of more than two heavyweights in history who would have beaten him, if I'm being completely honest.
You rate him that good?
I thought Holmes was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I thought Larry Holmes from 79 to 82 was a just formidable fighter. There was everything nothing he couldn't do. Great recovery powers. I love the fight against Leon Spinks. I just thought to see a heavyweight move like that is unbelievable. And the way he brought Spinks onto the shots and the way he used the ring and the distance, I thought was incredible. Anybody who's not seen Larry Holmes against Ken Norton, you haven't seen boxing, you don't watch boxing. It's like probably the most absorbing 15-rounder I've ever seen. I remember when he fought Jerry Cooney, we listened to it on the radio. Anybody who's any younger ones watching, we know, Russell, you didn't get live fights on TV, did you? You got the radio.
So we fought Jerry Cooney. They built it up as like a race fight.
Yeah, it was so unfortunate. And it's really nice to see Holmes and Cooney are such good friends now. And they do lots of conventions.
It was Don King that had caused all that, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, Don King loved it. And I think what was really unusual about Holmes and Cooney was that Larry Holmes had been champion for 4 years and Cooney got exactly the same payday as Holmes. They both got 10 million or so. And also Larry Holmes entered the ring first and Jerry Cooney entered the ring second. It's like the concessions that Holmes gave. And that's why I bemoan heavyweight boxing now, because Larry Holmes was the champion. Ali got paid more than Holmes. Cooney got the same as Holmes. But did Larry Holmes say, well, I'm not playing out, I'm not fighting now, I'm not? No, he got on with it, mate. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll do my talking in the ring. That's what I'll do. And that's why when I listen to heavyweights now who won't fight for pathetic reasons, and you got Larry Holmes when he beat
Larry Holmes he fought 3 times every 11 and a half months, if you go through his record.
Yeah, when Larry Holmes beat Kenny Norton, he was defended his belt every 3-4 months. You know, Lorenzo Zan and Alfredo Evangelista, not great heavyweights. It doesn't matter. He kept busy. Then he beat Mikey Weaver. He beat Ernie Shavers. He beat some good fighters. He beat some not so good fighters. He was consistent as he got older. I think politics started to just come in a little bit more. But Holmes was just a phenomenal fighter. Like all boxers, went on too long. Even people think of Holmes against Holyfield and McCall. Don't realize he was so far past his best. When he fought Mike Tyson, he was inactive. He was shot to bits. But Larry Holmes, from a period, as I've said, a 3 to 4 year period, was as good a heavyweight as I've ever seen in my life.
He tried to contain Mike Tyson, didn't he? I watched it.
Yeah,
you could see he wasn't the same Larry Holmes. He tried to fumble his way through it all and just take the money.
Yeah, and they said, didn't they? We're coming off 2 back-to-back losses against Mike Spinks. He had inactivity, and then I think they moved the Tyson fight forward and to what was agreed with Don King, and Holmes had like 6-7 weeks to get ready, and he hadn't even been training for 2 years.
3 weeks. And 3 weeks he had.
He didn't have long, did he? No matter what happened, Tyson in 1980, Tyson would have always beat him at that stage. Tyson would have beat him in 1988.
Beat anybody, that mindset.
Yeah, Mike Tyson, you know, in fact, you mentioned Tyson, right? I was watching recently. I've not seen it in absolutely ages. And, you know, sometimes you look back.
I'm not a big fan of him, to be honest, but
I'm not a huge fan of Tyson, but I watched Tyson Buster Douglas last week. I haven't seen it in 10, 15 years. And I always defended Buster Douglas when people said Tyson wasn't at his best and Tyson hadn't trained. And I was, oh, what a rubbish.
He went on floor when he dropped him heavy, didn't he?
But when I watched it back, you know, last week, Tyson wasn't flowing at all. Douglas didn't allow him to. But, you know, you do wonder what the preparation was like. He got knocked out. He got knocked down by Greggy Page in sparring. But ultimately, that's what becomes a great champion, is by being consistent in the gym, isn't it? You can't say, I didn't train. Tough, hard lines. Being a great champion is not just about what you do in the ring. It's about being in the gym every single day. And Mike Tyson was a phenomenal heavyweight champion, but for me, he wasn't one of the 10 best heavyweights who's ever lived.
No, not for me. Not in my top 10. Well, what's Mike Tyson's best 4 wins?
Well, that's the thing with Tyson, is it? Because if you look at, I used to ask the question because it's like a Tyson Fury. If you get involved in a debate with the Mike Tysonites on social media, you never win, because you can't educate Wood, can you? You know, it's like Mike Tyson, there's so much folklore about him, and he was a phenomenal fighter. But first of all, people say it wasn't the same after Cus D'Amato died, you know. Well, Cus D'Amato died after Mike Tyson's 11th fight when he was just a novice in his 2nd year as a pro. He went on to win
He won another 20-odd fights, didn't he? 20.
He went and won the undisputed and defended his titles for 4 years. So that's part of the crap what people say about Tyson. The other thing was Tyson knocked everybody out in the first round. People believe this stuff, and it's like, so what happens is it becomes folklore, doesn't it? It becomes like folklore.
John Fury with his stories.
It's folklore, and that
MI5 watching him from Moon and all that.
But you go on any Mike Tyson. Honestly, you go on any Mike Tyson thread on YouTube, and 90% of the comments are just saying he would have knocked Ali out in 1 round and stuff. And I just shake my head. But good fighter, really exciting fighter. But like you've just said, I always ask the question of Mike Tyson fans, which natural heavyweight in their prime, elite heavyweight, did Mike Tyson beat?
None.
The closest you can probably get is Razor Ruddock. I mean, Mike Spinks was a light heavyweight.
Title, Razor Ruddock, though, did he?
That's what I'm saying. So
he weren't a world champion. He beat him twice. He weren't a world champion.
Tyson.
Lennox Lewis, look what he did to Razor Ruddock.
Yeah, 2 rounds he destroyed him, didn't he? Just wiped him out like he was nothing. So
life and death.
Yeah. So I never bought into the Mike Tyson, the greatest heavyweight of all time, etc., etc. So, but phenomenal fighter. But I think when you look at history,
picker like Calzaghe and Tyson Fury, cherry picking.
Lots of cherry pickers out there, aren't there?
Loads. That's all they're doing. Mike Tyson didn't fight Holyfield at his peak. He didn't fight Lennox at his peak. Calzaghe didn't fight Hopkins or Jones at the peak. He swerved Carl Froch, vacated. The list is endless. Glenn Johnson, he pulled out 3 times, had to pay 100 grand 3rd time. Didn't rematch.
Yeah, it's true.
He rematched Mario Vate, which he knocked out easily. Didn't rematch Robin Reed, who'll give him a torrid time. Torrid.
And that's why whenever I'm a
Chris
Ray
Eubank
Leonard fan.
Jr., old as hills.
Yeah. Ancient. I'm a Ray Leonard fan. Ray Leonard in 1979 fought Benitez. In 1980, he fought Duran twice, and in 1981 he fought Tommy Hearns. I mean, you just can't compete with that, can you? It's like that is legacy defining. And look at who Hagler fought. Look at the great fighters who Hagler fought. And like you said, the cherry pickers. It doesn't mean they're not good, but it still makes them cherry pickers, doesn't it?
I don't want Tyson's career to peter out around fights with Ngannou and it'll be something else soon.
I think it might do, you know. I think it might do because what is going to happen to Tyson Fury, there's little doubt about that. Is you know and I know he'll be already slowing down in the gym. He's unless he can defy the aging process. What is he? 35 now, 36 soon. Unless he can unless he can defy the aging process, he's no different to anybody else. He'll start to fade over the next year or two if he hasn't already. And it's the young guns coming along. And this is why heavyweights get to a certain age and they become very strategic with who they fight. And Tyson will be no different to anybody else.
He's an historian, Tyson. He'll know what he can and can't do in gym.
Tyson will know that. I know.
All right, then here's one thing, Julian. Has his legs gone? We're not saying his legs have gone, but he doesn't have no bounce after round 4, does he? Have you noticed in his legs? Whereas
he definitely won't have. He won't have the legs that he used to have. I mean, you just asking me about Larry Holmes. Now, when Larry Holmes, after he fought Cooney, and then Holmes's legs started to go. Yeah, and then he obviously Witherspoon, obviously fought Cooney, Luis Rodriguez, the Witherspoons, and by the time he fought David Bay and Carl Williams and Bronco Smith, his legs were gone. Holmes's legs were just short, and it became still got the quick hands and still had the skills, but he would walk around the ring. He wouldn't dance and glide. And I think Tyson Fury's legs they won't be what they used to be because you can't be. Floyd Mayweather really dropped his punch output as he went from lightweight to light welterweight to welterweight. He's just such a great fighter. His punch economy was off the scale and his defense was unbelievable. But all fighters get to an age and a stage, and this is the problem we've got with Tyson Fury. He's not even had a prime, has he? Because your prime is like 10, 15 fights back to back to back, beating the best and fighting regular.
Start jobs, isn't it? And bums is for.
Yeah. And it's frustrating because had Tyson Fury been active the last 3-4 years, it would have dominated. It would have absolutely dominated everybody.
I don't think his lifestyle and his desire allows him to be active all the time. It's his problem. It's his own problem. If he can't train every day, that's his problem. But he'll tell us, "Oh, I'm training every day. I've got mental health issues." Well, if you're training every day, why have you got a rubber dinghy at the bottom of your back, underneath your belly, underneath your skin? It looks like somebody's inserted inside his body a big rubber dinghy. Have you seen the back fat on it?
It's nothing to do with genetics.
I think there's something wrong with it. I think it's like a giant cyst, because I was talking to some expert over there and he said, it's like a cyst or something. His body, to say he's training all the time, there's something wrong with his body at bottom, isn't there?
Or he's drinking a hell of a lot.
Oh, that guy said to me, he says it's fluids, that does drink a lot of pop and that. Well, I don't know. I don't speak to him. I'm assuming it's alcohol, lager, that. I'd have thought lorry driver job, that, innit? It was sat down. It's like,
that'd be my assumption, because he's that gifted and he's that tall and that awkward.
I think they don't need to train, don't they?
Yeah.
But the heavyweight champ getting in ring in that state.
Can you remember, right? When we talk about the 80s, but people thought like Greg Page and Tony Tubbs and Witherspoon were fat. They got some right stick. They weren't fat. They'd put about 8, 9, 10 pounds on, and they used to get a lot of stick in the media. And then all of a sudden, you've got like fighters now, and they're like balloons, aren't they? You just see them you see them on every bill. You know, some of these.
I saw that guy beat Danny Williams, Samuel Sam, a Turkish guy. Do you remember him years ago?
Yeah, I do remember.
He was a really good fighter, wasn't he? And he was a slob. And he turned Danny Williams on his head. Do you remember?
I remember him, the Turk. Yeah, I do remember him.
How can he turn him on his head, the slob?
I didn't watch I hadn't seen all the show yet, but there was a show at the weekend when the guy who just fought Joshua and Dillian White, Franklin, he was fighting a young Mexican kid who was unbeaten. I've not watched it yet. And he just looked like he'd been training at like Burger King. Honestly, I'm like, how people, oh yeah, it's your body, it's your physique, it's this, that. Well, how come we don't see lightweights with a body like that? It's heavyweights. I just think I don't have to train. They just eat crap, eat sweets, eat rubbish, and they just train and they're just like. I like to see a fight look like a fight. All right, you might not be the most genetically gifted, but like you said, when you're talking about carrying, you know,
look at look at that round his back. Have you seen? That's not normal. That he needs to go see something. There's something wrong with his blood.
I think it's unusual. It's very unusual.
With that. If that looking at, there could be some big giant cyst in there. If you see them pop them on YouTube, I'd love to see it. Whatever Tyson's back at bottom, it wants popping out, man. There could be 20 tins of custard in there, and that man coming out, kitten on custard.
It's funny because I saw him. There was a bit of training video of him on a few weeks ago, and it was huge. It was absolute. His back was
but
huge.
we see a training video for 30 seconds of running down the street, him and his father, and then people go, "Oh, Tyson's back on it, 10 kilometer runs with John, pop bang," and I'm like, you've just seen a video for 30 seconds crawl out his arsehole.
People buy it though, don't they? People believe this stuff. I mean, listen, we talked about this before. We said there was no way he was fighting Usyk in April, and I got ripped to bits for that.
Julian, when I send you a video when I'm doing my run in the morning at videos 1 minute 50, you know that after that 1 minute 50, I'm fucking having a break before.
I know you've done that. I know you are, mate. But can you remember like I said, the Usyk fight when John Fury's like literally ripping Sugar Hill to bits? And all Sugar Hill said was, "What are you here for? I'm here for Lawrence and Cole." He just jumped to life here and said, "We've just been in the gym with Tyson, just 12 rounds on pads."
Johnny's come out with that interview and he's gone, "What does he need Frank Warren for when he's got me? Pop, bang."
I do like John. I think he's
hard at way, isn't he? He wants Bricktop gone.
There's a big pie of cash, isn't there? There's a big load of cash.
You know what it is with John? Do you know what it is, right? John's looking at all this dough. He'll be getting, because you get a print out, don't you? They say, right, this is where the money's gone, Tyson. So you start off with, say, I don't know, 30 million. So-and-so's gone to him, this has gone to him. And you're left with whatever. John will be like, "Well, I don't like him. He's not a Fury. He's not a Fury. He's no good. I can do that." You can imagine, because they've got no filter. And that's where I'd look at it if it were my lad. I'd be like, well, I can hold pads better than him. I can do him. I don't like him. He's always late. He needs to go. And why do we need him? We're bigger than him. I know what's going on here, right? So watch it unfold. Listen, you know when they get to Saudi, right? Next couple
yeah.
Now watch what happens now, because you're going to see something a bit special, and you're going to see him flip his lid. The father, his head will go out there if they even fight. He won't be able to handle the big occasion. Something will happen because
I think you're right there. I think there is
Listen, let me tell you this about him, shall I? Right? You know, as soon as you said to him the word no, right, turn on you. Or soon as something don't go their way. Remember this video. As soon as something don't go their way, get ready, because all bets are off. Bosh. Get ready. It'll happen.
Oh, completely agree. Yeah. Listen,
I wish I could put a bet on it. It will.
It's the DNA. It's the DNA. But what I will say about like I said, as long as you leave people in the right way, I don't think there's an issue with that. But what I will say about John Fury and Tyson Fury is they understand, right? There's a reason very few people can be professional fighters. It's a brutal sport. And none of these promoters, and I've been in
have had a fight in their lives.
They've never had a fight in their life. So I get it with John Fury. He's like, hang on a minute. You're getting 10%, 20%.
We don't normally agree with him, do we? But we do on this, don't we?
I agree with John Fury on this. I generally do. I'm like, you know what? You guys, you know, you guys are loaded, you promoters. You can have, if you're a good coach, right, you might get 5 or 6 really good fighters in your coaching career. If you're a good manager, you might got 8, 9, 10, 11 good fighters. If you're a really good promoter, you might get 20, 30 fighters in your career. You're a boxer, you got one career. That is it, right? You got to earn what you can while you can. But these guys, anybody who's, and I don't mean to be patronising, you've seen the sparring at top level sparring. I've had fighters who have been involved in top level sparring. Flanagan.
Watching sparring me, Julian, it's better than going to matches, to fights.
We used to have at Central Boxing Club, we'd have Sykes, Terry Flanagan, Josh Warren, and Carl Johansson. It was savage, and I mean savage, right?
Oh, this was massive punch.
Week in, Carl used to terrify them all. Tommy Coyle used to come down. Carl terrified them all. The wind on his shot. Sometimes Carl used to throw shots genuinely, and he'd just miss them by that. A couple of times he'd miss Josh Warrington's chin. And Josh would just go like, Christ, I'm glad. We'd have a joke about it. Josh would say, I'm glad that didn't land. He says, I'd have been out the window. Carl was phenomenally powerful. But what I'm saying is, you know how hard it is, right? You've seen top class sparring. It's savage. You be at Gallagher's gym, it's savage. And they're doing this 2 or 3 times a week. They genuinely are, right? Listen, you're a pro fighter, you pay a price. Tyson Fury is unbeaten. He will pay a price for his boxing when he's in his 50s and 60s and 70s. They all do. Look at all the great fighters. They all pay a price. They just have different levels of damage, different levels of, you know, neurological damage, but they will pay a price for what they're doing. Very, very few fighters get out of it like Floyd. So what I'm saying is, if they're really risking their health, and they're damaging themselves, then they deserve as much money as they can get. I got no issue with John Fury saying to his boys, listen, you've made those guys rich now. We can get 100% of that pie.
But there's one thing I have an issue with.
I don't have an issue with it.
I do. If you're going to fight Ngannou, go on. But just put that WBC belt to one.
Yeah, give your belt up. 100%.
Let others fight for it. And then when you want to come back, Tyson, I'm sure WBC will let you fight the undisputed champion if one person's got all 6 belts. But don't fight the division that we've been waiting since 1999. It's 24 years now. We're coming into 25th year. That's a quarter of a century. We aren't knowing who the best heavyweight is. They can't do this to us. They don't do it to
they can't.
With Champions League. They have a victor every year, don't they? So
I have no issue with Tyson, but as I said in the last part
I have an issue with him. He's a prick.
Well, but I've no issue with him fighting whoever he wants. Give your belt up. Just give your belt up. Let fighters fight for the belt.
Give the belt and don't be a weapon.
Let Deontay Wilder fight Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz got it, and then let winner of that fight Usyk
Usyk, and then yeah.
And then if Fury wants to come back then and fight whoever, yeah. But let's have one champion, and let's have everybody else fall in line, and then they can all scatter them for me. I don't care.
But they're going to get scattered before then. You know that. You know Anthony Joshua is going to pick up.
Could you imagine if you went to prison and they said, well, don't worry, you've done somebody and you're going down. But if we ever get an undisputed, you'll be let out. Well, Craze, Reggie didn't finish his 30 stretch, did he? Or he did he do it by 2 weeks? The other one, Ronnie, didn't finish it. He was a couple of years.
That's right, yeah.
Well, we're already nearly 25 years here. We are an undisputed, so it's nearly at length at Craze when they were in jail. It's fucking liberty, Julian.
It's embarrassing. It's horrendous, mate.
And the media have allowed it to happen. The magazines, KO Magazine, Boxing News, a lot. None of these have been on them. They're all having a moan now. Get into them. Don't be frightened of these shithouses with illegal teams. Get stuck into them. Just tell the truth. They're not going to sue you if you tell the truth, in your opinion. They're frightened to death to lose access.
And this is what I really struggle with, because you've got a guy like Colin Hart who was always opinionated.
Colin Hart, you're a prick! Crawl out, prick's top's arsehole, you old prick!
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Colin Hart probably hasn't been relevant for 7 or 8 years. So now he's, yeah. But I used to love Colin Hart.
I don't
He
like
said
him.
it as
No,
it
he's
was.
been a prick with a wig. An old prick with a wig, and he's to jog on, man. Yeah, they call him in the sun for years. All I've ever seen him do is hang out the back of Mickey Duff's arsehole and Bricktop's
He's
arsehole.
sold out.
He's an
He's completely
arsehole
sold
hanger
out.
outer. Is it what?
He's sold out. He's completely sold out. He's
Sold
just.
out, mate. It's unbelievable what I've seen him doing. It's unbelievable, mate. Him and the Gad. The Gad's supposed to be the big noise in media in boxing. The Gad. I've given him that title, the Gad. He's supposed to be the man, right? And he gets these people on TalkSport, and it's left to kids like Adam Cattrall to set about Frank. And he's sat there, him, and he knows his boxing, the Gad. But
Yeah, he
he's
does.
sat there, and he don't want to fuck his own little bubble up, do you, Gad? You don't want your little bubble bursting, do you? Well, let me tell you this. Any Porky fans see you at a show, you're getting drenched in Stella. And I'm going to pay them. Whoever drenches you, I will pay them reddies.
I was just going to say the Gad
Trick.
needs to have a man. He needs to have a man in the mirror moment, but he probably has a man in the mirror moment every night.
Well, I'm swinging him about with his ponytail. Don't want it. He couldn't get in my company. Him. Hey, Gad, next time you're at a show, go up to Peter Fury with your camera and your mic and say, Peter, how are you doing? Not long time no see. Can I have an interview? You see what happens. Pop, fucking bang. Now, there's too many arse lickers in media. Too many licking arsehole. Male men licking arse. Male arse. It's no good, mate. It's no good at all, and it's got to stop, mate. It's got to stop.
It's societal, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's where we're at. Everybody wants access. Everybody wants to build a platform because no one's prepared to be unique and do their own thing and say what they think. And it's it is what it is, I'm afraid, mate. And we still watch it. We still want the big fights. If Fury fights Usyk, we'll watch it. We'll tune in. We'll get excited about it. And they can do this to us. And it's like an abusive relationship. They can just do this to us because you're hooked, mate. You're hooked on boxing. And they know that. And that's the problem.
In bad, mate. It's in bad form, mate, what they've done. They've parked up a sport. The boxing thrives off the heavyweight division. So we get everybody in this position. They're all ready and offers are going and there's millions of pounds. And then we've got one guy with one belt telling the guy with 5 belts that he's having 30% and he's taking 70 because he's greedy and he don't care about anybody. So he wants 70%, but he's got 1 belt. And he's talking about the other guy, European, world, Olympics, gold medals, cruiserweight as a professional, cleaned up. Heavyweights, he's got 5 at 6 belts. Nobody's come close to doing him, right? And Fury don't want to fight him. He wants to fight a guy who's having his debut as a boxing match. But don't worry, the belts are not on the line. Tyson's going to fight a guy making his debut. Floyd Mayweather did it with Conor McGregor. So I'm going to do it with Ngannou.
And we need to stop talking about the green belt as well because it's the most corrupt out of all the organisations. It's horrendous.
Sure, Froch's got 2 belts, and you know what? I bet he's looking at them belts now thinking, shh. But look who he had to beat for them and defend against. He didn't.
It meant something then, but if the WBC meant something then, but they've always been. Well, they're all corrupt.
So in the last 15 years, WBC's gone downhill. Yeah.
It's got to them, yeah.
Well, WBA's gone, hasn't it? The WBO were never there. Nobody rates IBO, so we're only left with IBF.
I mean, for me, the WBC, there's been so many bad decisions over the years, but the Conor Benn defense, when they were literally found a defense for Conor Benn, they actually, hang on a minute, Conor could be exit. They actually found a defense, and I've never seen or heard anything like that. I thought, how desperate are you for sanctioning fees? That you basically, a guy who's 2 adverse findings, you're actually saying we don't agree with the contamination because that'd make Vardy look pretty bad. So we can't have that. But guess what? Maybe you've had too many eggs. That was horrendous, and I just thought it's like a prosecution giving an alibi to someone who's up for murder, supporting the defence. I've never seen anything like it. So the WBC horrendous, and I think we're getting to a stage now, aren't we? Who was the most recent? Someone recently said we got to either clean up or get rid of all the belts. It was one of the champions. I can't remember who it was, and it was like it might have even been Terence Crawford. I can't remember. But someone saying we've got to get rid of the belts. We've got to get rid of the belts, and we've got to have one regulating world body for boxing. And we're getting to a stage now where belts will become meaningless, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
it's a shame, mate.
It's a joke, mate. It's a joke, and something's got to be done about it, hasn't it? Because if none of the belts are worth it, and they're not sticking to any of the rules, how can the sport have any credibility? For example, if somebody says, "Yeah, I'm a world champion," and you can look at it and go, "Well, really, you didn't fight him. You didn't fight him."
Yeah.
Blah blah. That red dodges, and it's tainted. It's tainted, isn't it? Really.
It's like when the WBO and like the WBA, they had a regular champion. I'm like, I don't know what that means, a regular champion. And then the WBO had an interim champion. I thought an interim champion was when the champion
WBC have a champion emeritus and an interim. They invented emeritus. It's called emeritus champion.
I mean, what even does that mean? I mean, it's like, you know, you could get started on belts. It's the one thing I hate more than anything is this nonsense. It's like, but when you have a WBO European belt, so how does a world governing body have a European belt?
Look at Big Ronnie invented an IBF European for Cash Ali. I goes, what's that? He goes, oh, IBF European. I goes, so you're going to be telling people Cash Ali's a European champion? Dennis went, yeah. And I goes, yeah, but he ain't, Dennis. It's EBU that's European. Yeah, but we're doing it with IBF. They're just inventing belts.
So the same European belt that Tony Simpson and Alan Minter had, or if you want to talk about heavyweights, you want to talk about Fran Bruno, Cash Ali's got a European belt as well.
That's Richard Towers has. He's got a European, but it's the interim European one.
I don't know.
Tony Bellew's got a European for cruiserweight.
You're the champion of Europe, or you're not. I mean, there's this, you know, what we're going to have. Okay, we've got the British title. We've got the, you know, are we going to have a WBA British champion? Are we going to have a regular British champion? No, we're not, because we've got to uphold some kind of standards. But these belts, these WBF Intercontinental, those sometimes you see these opponents announced on a weekend, and it'll say you got so and so from South America, and it'll list about 6 intercontinental titles. And I only have to look at the guy to know he can't fight. I just look at him like, you got more belts than, you know, Versace, and none of them are worth anything whatsoever.
Is Max fighting on Friday?
I chat to Max most days, but you know, I don't work with him as a in a boxing capacity. And you've asked me a question there, and I think the answer is no, but I don't know for definite.
Yeah. Oh, Dennis.
I don't know, because Max is a great kid. Loads of time for him. In fact, he sent me a message tonight on audio. He was watching Holmes and Tyson, ironically, and he asked me what I thought. And we talk about boxing, but we never talk about Max's boxing. I hope Max finds what makes him happy. That's the best way I can.
Well, if we don't fight on Friday, Dennis told him he's fighting Friday.
He might be then. He could be fighting. I don't know.
Yeah.
He could be. I don't know.
Well, I'll let you know now if Max is on. Well, what day is it today? Monday night.
Monday.
Right.
If Max fights on Friday, then all the best to Max, and I hope he's fit and healthy and he performs. But I actually don't know. And anybody who's watching this who's trying to read anything between that, there's no falling out with me. Max Jenkins is a good kid. We get on, but I no longer coach fighters. It's as simple as that.
Max is 1-1, and he ain't fighting Friday. He's not listed on any show.
Or is he not on? Is it not on BoxRec? Okay. I genuinely, Max, if you're watching, I genuinely don't know. But
unless Michelle's going to stick him on. on Wednesdays. It'd be too late now. If he's fighting in Malta, there's a cut-off.
Oh, so it's not in the UK. It's not in the UK. All right.
Cut-off points Tuesday tea in it for Malta for paperwork for board because it's Europe, isn't it? So
it's generally 4 days. Yeah, yeah.
So if he hadn't got everything done, I remember because they all used to have a panic on if it were a show abroad or on Tuesday afternoon.
That's right. Yeah.
So Max has got about 24 hours. No, he's got less. He's got about 17 hours to get put on show then, hasn't he? Otherwise, he'll not be fighting, will he? I bet he's heartbroken if he don't fight because he wanted to get one on board, didn't he?
Yeah, he wanted to. Yeah,
get a win. It's an hard slog boxing, and you can...
I know he has been training, but I don't really talk about boxing too much to him. But I think he referenced it last week. We were chatting, and he'd been doing something. He'd been training, but people might be reading stuff into this. There's nothing into it. There genuinely isn't. If you speak to Max, and you speak to me and Max chat, but probably most days actually, but just not about Max in terms of his boxing career, because I have certain views that are my views, and we respect each other enough to not let that be an issue between us.
Max, good luck.
If you box, absolutely good luck, pal. All the best. Yeah.
You'll need it.
You couldn't help that, could you? You couldn't resist that, mate.
He will need it, Max, if he's going to perform how I last seen him perform. But I've got a bit of something in my heart for Max, haven't I? Comes down.
How anybody who don't like Max is...
Max comes to my house and eats steak with me. So, well, he has a steak, I don't. Steak wrap he has. Big lad, isn't he? But he's had
he needs his food.
And if he retires at 1-on-1, he can't say he's got a losing record, can he?
If Max never boxes again, he's done what most people never get to do, mate. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, he's done well to do it how he wanted to do it. He did it his way.
We could start singing that one, mate, couldn't we?
Well, let's finish off on this one. Have you heard anything from Roberto Smith of the board regarding Gary Sykes' British belt that they owe him? British title.
Well, the border control don't get my license fee any longer, so I know Sykes has had a couple of, I won't go into detail, he's had a little bit of communication at Christmas time, the last 2 Christmases from the border control, and it wasn't the communication he wanted in terms of it. Never mentioned his belt. Robert Smith held the same position every time I spoke to him, but you know, the same. It wasn't a mandatory Johansson, blah blah blah. But he was never prepared to have that discussion with me. I actually offered the last correspondence I had with Robert Smith, for I politely told him to shove the license where the sun don't shine. The last conversation, I said, let me come down to Cardiff. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a real grown-up discussion. Let's go through some details that you might not be aware of. Let me see some communication.
You've got it all there. He's knackered if you take off the paperwork. He's not going to give you a day, is he? He's not going to give you a day, is he?
He won't give me half an hour to have a coffee, mate. 20 years as a professional coach, 20 years service from me in professional gyms, 12 years as an amateur coach and amateur boxer, give 32 years to boxing, and I wasn't worth half an hour to have a coffee to discuss Gary Sykes, a 2-time British champion, and the status of the belt outright. I got an email, a letter, a Word document saying, done, the end. And I won't worth a coffee, mate. I'd have even bought the coffee for you, Robert Smith.
The Roberto Smith, I hope you're proud of yourself. When you leave the boxing border control, it will be a better run place when you're gone. Your mark out of 15 and a half year there, you can't even give me a mark out of 10. Every time I pull you, you swerve me. I'm going to give you a 0, you prick.
You know, I always struggle with the Robert Smith thing because he was an ex-fighter.
Yeah.
It was a pro fighter, was Robert Smith. He was a decent fighter. He knows how hard fighters work. But people cross over, they go over to the other side, don't they? And what's that? Those 2 words that you always hear, power corrupts. And it does.
Right,
yeah, I agree.
We'll get off.
Fuck him, I agree. Yeah.
Have a great night, Julian. Thanks for coming
on. You take care, mate.
Love you, mate.
Enjoy, everybody. Thank you, buddy. Cheers, mate.